Alright, what's up guys? It's Zander for the movie stand. We got Rudy over here.
Back again.
We just got out of Solo, a Star Wars story, and it was way better than I thought it was going to be. And Alden Ehrenreich is Han Solo. He does a good job. And then Lando, Donald Glover is Lando. Like, that's just like...
You know what? Yeah, I give it to Donald Glover.
He was skeptical of it. I was like, nah.
I was skeptical of everybody in the cast, but everybody seemed to pull up and do a good job.
Han Solo is always the one I think everyone in the Star Wars fan community
it's hard to replace Harrison Ford, man. It's really hard, but
and he does really well, especially near the end. Like when
towards the end, didn't you kind of see the resemblance a little bit?
Oh yeah,
there was some shots where it was like showing his face.
There was a shot where Alden smiles and it looks like Han Solo smiles. Like,
yeah, like there was some close-ups to his face, and I saw the resemblance.
And there was like twitches in his face that like really were Harrison Ford twitches.
Yeah, and you could see he started building that personality towards the end of the movie.
And especially when they go to the second game of Sabacc, like he confronts Lando. That's very like I was like, oh, that's Harrison Ford.
That's Han Solo all the way.
That was just Han Solo.
That moment was Han Solo all the way. You want to start with your thoughts? I'll give mine.
Well, let's start with the big thing. This was originally being directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Mm-hmm. They did the Lego Movie, the 22 Jump Street movies. They didn't, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So they were originally directing this, and then they left because of creative differences. Which, I mean, without going into it, I think Lucasfilm were just not happy with what they were doing.
Yeah, I'd say that because I mean, you could tell. I mean, that movie was really good, and who knows, man? Maybe they didn't have the right vision.
I mean, Ron Howard came in and finished it up. I don't know if this next part is true, but I heard that the first act is a bit Lord and Miller, and most of the second act, and definitely the third act, was Ron Howard. I'm not sure how true that is, but if that's the case, it all meshed together well.
Yeah, it meshed together really well. Like, you could see... and you know what? Let me put in real quick. It's a really satisfying movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally like, there's some parts where you think it's over, and there's still so much more to explore and learn about the film and learn about the backstory. I mean, obviously, crazy story, insane story.
The Kessel you actually saw that. That was crazy.
It's an extremely satisfying movie in terms of just the longevity and everything.
It is a bit predictable at points, and especially towards the end with like the turn of events. But I'm like, I don't want to say, oh, what else can you do? Because there's always things you can do to make it less predictable. And I don't want to say, oh, it's a Star Wars movie, I'm okay with it being predictable. But I don't know. It felt like it was kind of okay. Like,
honestly, yeah. I mean, it was predictable in a way where it felt more like a nod than it was like an actual, you know what's gonna happen next. Because what I liked is there was a double cross, triple cross, like everybody was just crossing each other towards the end, and it didn't feel like, oh, it's predictable, and it made it kind of corny in a way. It felt more like, this is a Han Solo movie. That's all this guy knows,
And I kind of feel like we're conditioned to double crosses and triple crosses being predictable just because we've had a bunch of westerns, and this was a Star Wars western. Like that, it was a heist movie, and it was a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing.
And you had an opening crawl, but that felt very like old-timey film, like with the like titles coming up.
I hear where you're coming from, but yeah, it's definitely, for you guys looking to see the movie, it's not your average cup of tea Star Wars movie. It's like almost like it's a story but with a Star Wars flavor on it.
The title card for Solo was actually pretty dope when they did that.
Yeah. Oh, you know what's funny? If you want to talk about that beginning scene, yeah. I gotta say, I was a little disappointed because I'm used to seeing the Star Wars.
I mean, with the anthology movies, the Star Wars story movies, they don't do that. Only the main title episode movies do that. The other ones don't.
Yeah, see, that's what I didn't know. He hasn't
seen Rogue One yet.
I didn't see Rogue One. This was actually the first side story Star Wars movie I actually went out to go see.
They don't do that for the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I mean,
side stories.
That's a complaint, but that's nitpicking, honestly.
And honestly, I'm kind of happy they don't, because it makes it different.
They still. That's what I'm saying. It's more of a nitpick because you know what? It's really not even a complaint at all. They fit it in pretty cool. Like I said, I didn't see Rogue One.
Everything on
so
yeah, good.
When I saw how like it was like long time ago in a galaxy far away, and then they kept doing more and then more and then more. It was kind of creating.
I don't think they did that for Rogue One with like the setting of the moment. They definitely said a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they didn't go in like this is this and then is this.
Do you believe that this Star Wars movie, even though it was a side story, kind of felt more important than maybe? I mean, obviously, there's only 2 side stories so far, but out of every side story you kind of ever seen, I felt like, well, in my opinion, but I want to hear about yours. Do you feel like this was the most important one? Do you think that this may have a connection to the next episode?
No.
Okay.
I don't think this will have a connection to any characters that will show up or story points. This was wrapped up in its own thing. Even with the whole tease at the end with Darth Maul.
That's the problem,
there was a Darth Maul tease. But hang on. Before we get into that, even with that tease, it's consolidated because you already know his story from Star Wars Rebels. You already know what happens to him. So it's just like.
Yeah, see, I didn't watch Star Wars Rebels, so I didn't even know like about that whole Darth Maul side.
So everything's kind of like wrapped up. So this movie, it's still an anthology movie. I'm going to call it anthology because that's what they originally were called.
What do you think too? Do you think this was before or after Phantom Menace? That was something I was.
No, this is before.
This is before Phantom Menace.
Okay, let's get into the Darth Maul thing because he's confused. If you look at his lightsaber, it's from the Clone Wars. This TV show.
Okay, so this has a connection.
Because you say this is the base of the lightsaber. He has the curve that comes up, and that's from his lightsaber in the Clone Wars. And also in the Clone Wars, he gets the metal legs, and you see them at the base.
Yeah, I haven't read too much into Darth Maul lore. See, like I'm the type of guy. I'm the I guess you could call me mainstream, whatever. I watched all the important movies.
I mean, it's all in the Clone Wars and Rebels. They tie up Darth Maul's story, and then they do have Son of Dathomir.
Yeah, like there's people who are really into the lore of Darth Maul and will watch all the series and read all the stories on the wiki pages and shit. But in my opinion, it's just like, I didn't really know myself anything about Darth
I think
Maul,
it was still
but when
good.
when I saw him in the movie, it was absolutely insane. But I had to bring that question up, like, wait, is this before Phantom Menace? Is this after Phantom Menace?
I mean, Han Solo is never before Phantom Menace.
Because I thought he was like, oh, he's back, like he never died. I was like, what?
He
never saw him die.
He never did die.
But no, he did.
But he didn't.
In Phantom Menace, he died.
He got cut in half. He didn't die.
So he's alive.
This is where the Clone Wars comes in.
Yeah, see, I didn't.
He gets robotic legs, and then he gets better robotic legs that are actually like legs. He has spider legs at first.
So, all right, here's my question to you then, bro. Is Darth Maul alive, like, currently? Like, let's...
In the Last Jedi timeline?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. When did he die?
Before Star Wars.
Oh, okay, before Star Wars.
Before Star Wars.
The movie.
Yes, the movie.
Okay.
He dies on Tatooine against Obi-Wan.
Oh, against Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Wow, nah, I had no idea all this happened.
It is a very showdowny. It's a very showdown like battle.
Let me ask you another question, bro. So do you think that there'll be another installment to this series,
the Solo movie?
Yeah.
Maybe
they kind of left it open.
They kind of left it like, oh, we're gonna go into the Hutt deal, like because you know how
in
Star Wars you drop my packages
and by the way, there's a lot of connections and nods to not maybe like the near future, but the very distant future, talking about the original trilogy.
But that is actually pretty near because I think it might be 10 years before.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know the timeline.
Because I think they mentioned Chewie's age in Star Wars, or at least some extra something.
Yeah, that was another thing.
Something was announced that was like he's this old in Star Wars. So if you take that age and you go back to what they showed is like 190, then you can be like, okay, that's this many years between the two.
Yeah, real quick, I want to touch upon too when I saw Chewie, because I was so curious myself too, because when we first meet Chewie, he was in the pit, with Solo and stuff. That
was actually pretty cool to see how they met.
Yeah, but it brought me back to Episode 3. Remember the Wookiee War?
The Clone Wars on Kashyyyk.
It was after Clone Wars. It was the third movie. It was Revenge of the Sith.
No. There's still the Clone Wars on Kashyyyk. That's still the Clone Wars era.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was wondering, that's where I guess you could read into the comic books, watch the shows and stuff, because I was really wondering. I was like, wait, how did Chewie go from fighting this war to now he's captured by the Imperial?
They said that the Empire took the Wookiees as slaves on Kashyyyk, and they brought them to Spice Mine at Kessel.
I heard about that too.
They said it in the movie.
I felt like there was more to it.
No,
that's what it was. I felt like there was more.
There might be, but
they did kind of explain it.
Without in-depth research, I mean, there probably is like a tiny bit more, but I think that's basically the rough story of that.
Yeah, because it just felt weird for me, because it almost felt like a time skip, because it was like 1 minute we see him fighting this war, the whole thing with Yoda.
I mean,
and all that stuff.
there's been a decent amount of time between the two movies.
Yeah, that another thing too. It just kind of goes back to understanding the timeline, understanding the lore. Me, I've only watched the main movies. This is the first Star Wars movie I watched, which, quite frankly, I'm extremely impressed. This movie was absolutely insane. Off the scale, man.
I kind of got annoyed at L3, but at the same time, I'm like, is this a droid having fun?
No, L3 was funny. I really enjoyed it. You know what was funny? One thing I want to touch upon too. When we saw The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Compared to The Last Jedi, this movie almost had the flavor that I wish The Last Jedi had. Because here's why, man. The Last Jedi had way too much humor for my enjoyment, and this movie was really serious.
And this movie just felt, I don't know. I don't want to say classic Star Wars.
Yeah, like the flavor was right.
It didn't feel like new trilogy Star Wars.
It didn't feel like we were getting comedy shoved down our throats.
It didn't feel like polished. Like the new movies feel polished. This felt like, we're kind of gritty. This is. Yeah,
like this felt like it almost like. It's almost like when they were directing it, they said, we want the timeline to fit the style almost. Because literally this movie could have blended in, with some of the older movies. It had that same flavor. It had that same style. It wasn't too comedic. And you know what? Maybe that's just Disney kind of going to the fans and saying, look, we're going to give you the hardcore fans, the hardcore Star Wars movies, but maybe the main trilogies, we're going to, try to appeal more pop culture.
I could see that.
And you know what? I'd be A-okay with that. You know what? That's cool, Disney. Like, we get it now.
When they dropped Han into the 3 years later segment after he escapes Corellia, like, that is what I wanted from Rogue One. Like, a gritty action movie.
Yeah, see...
Like I saw that and I was like, that was teased with the concept trailer for Rogue One, which not many people saw unless you were at Star Wars Celebration that year or saw it online, like, briefly. But it felt grittier than what we got. Speaking of grittier, the cinematography on this movie is like outstanding. The color palette is good.
Soundtrack, the videography, just everything. I mean, obviously, the effects are off the chain. It's a Star Wars movie, but anything you want to touch upon too? There was some new vehicles we got to see.
Yeah, new Stormtrooper armor on Corellia.
Obviously, yeah, new Stormtrooper armor.
Even the basic Stormtrooper armor looked like it was more rough, and I really enjoyed that.
Everything was different but fresh.
It was a bit more prototype.
Nice. It was very nice. All the armors and all that stuff, vehicles, everything felt really fresh. When I saw the trailer, I was a little worried that things were gonna get a little cheesy and maybe a little fake. Nah, everything.
It's a very grounded movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't go like, oh, we're a big spectacle movie. It's like it's kind of like a character movie. It's a solo movie.
This one, yeah, I might have to say this one might be for the fans. This one may have been. I
honestly like this more than Last Jedi. Honestly,
that's what I'm saying.
And I want to say more than The Force Awakens, but Force Awakens was my first Star Wars movie in theater, so I can't really say it's better than that.
Yeah, like Force Awakens
maybe story wise, but
this is how it is right now for these new Star Wars movies. Like The Force Awakens, in my opinion, I still think that was a really good movie.
Yeah.
I like The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, again, that was my complaint, was like, the comedy and stuff. But it was good. But Solo really kind of, like, I was like, whoa, like, I didn't expect to see this, And I was really impressed.
I was really impressed by this movie, and I was like, cautiously optimistic. I wasn't like, oh, it's another Star Wars movie, it's gonna be great. I was like, is it gonna be great?
If I could just sum it up, it's an extremely satisfying movie.
Agreed.
Through, and that's the best way
and
to
honestly,
really put it.
I think it's like right after Force Awakens for me in my ranking, and I don't. It's like, so that's kind of high in my ranking, and that's kind of surprising because I wasn't expecting this at all. I wasn't expecting this to like it this much. And the opening scene, I was like, Yes, give me that. I'm in. I got chills in the opening scene of this movie. I was like, I'm excited. I'm there for it.
You know what? To be honest with you, I was skeptical in the beginning, but as things started picking up, it really captivated.
I like the color palette of the crime place in Corellia. But out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
Real quick thing I want to touch on before we start giving our ratings too. Again, a lot of nods to Star Wars culture, a lot of nods to just the fans in general. I mean, you go, like, you know, it's funny because they have always that typical scene where there's the band playing, it was the singer and the alien and the little tube thing. There's a party going on. There's always a party in Star Wars. And it was great, man. But so you want to give your rating first, actually, or you want me
honestly, to go? I seem to give every movie this 4 out of 5. Like, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I wanted to hear yours first because I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you.
Would you get 3.5?
No, definitely not low.
Or are you 4.5?
Oh man, you know what?
You can't decide.
The funny thing is, in the theater, I was really debating, man. I was like, should I give this a 4.5 or a 4.8? Like I was really like, yeah, and especially with that Darth Maul scene.
Do you think he was played by Ray Parker?
Who?
Darth Maul, the guy who played him in the Phantom Menace. Do you think it was played by him? I couldn't tell.
I don't think it was. I think it was a 3D thing. I think it was a 3D thing, man. It was a hologram, and it didn't look too real.
And if it's 3D, that mean, did Sam Witwer do the voice?
Maybe he did the voice, but
because Sam Witwer did the voice in Clone Wars and Rebels, and the Ray Park did all the action stuff and all the acting.
It sounded a little different, but it still sounded like Darth Maul.
Yeah,
it was more like it wasn't like they changed the actor. I think it was like they told him, look, you got to sound a certain way. But they probably got the same dude still. But yeah,
we're being told to.
We need the lights real quick.
Our car's telling us to stop. So
all right,
I give it 4 to 5. What do you get? 4.5 out of 5?
All right, so you know what? I said 4.5 or 4.8, so I'm gonna go right smack in the middle and probably say like a 4.6 and call it.
I'm gonna put a 4.5 in this rating.
Oh, man. You know what? I'm raising mine to 4.7. All right, 4.7. You heard it here first.
I'm Zander for the Movie Stand. This is Rudy. We're in the dark now because our lights shut off. Peace out, guys.
Thank you guys for watching.
Subscribe and do all that stuff in the description. And we'll be back to you with more content soon.
Well, another movie soon.